Hey, Dane, glad you were on the show. What did we talk about today?
There are so many things, and boy, I hope you took notes because my rambling ADD, ADHD brain probably can't remember it all.
Give me top three. Give me top three that you remember.
I challenge you to write 10 things that you love to do every single day. We challenged the world to get up, get out, and get moving. And at the end of the day, we challenged everybody to remember they are perfectly made. There's only one of them. There'll only be one of them, and it makes them pretty damn special.
Yep, I got that. And then how I never got 100% on any test in school. Do you have the 10 ingredients you need to win in your life? How fitness is the cornerstone of changing your life. You can't hide from the truth of movement. How you went from the director of bariatric exercise to the director of happiness. How movement is the secret weapon to success. By not having time, you lose time. Remember that all the hurricanes and tornadoes get the news, but termites do the most damage. And your health account depletes daily, and there's only one way to stop it. Plus about 85 other tangents with positive energy. And here's my guarantee that by the end of the episode, if your happiness dial has not turned up at least one knob, I don't know what's missing, but we will help you. But it's almost a guarantee at the end of this one. So, Dane, thanks for being on the show. Everybody go listen to our episode now because it's a doozy, and he gives it to you straight and fills your love bucket with all the positivity that he is. So let's cue the intro. Welcome to another episode of the Mind is Yours Show, where I have the quirkiest thing ever, where, I don't know, my new 2022 mission is to get people's favorite color. So I ask my guests what their favorite color is. I change the light behind me because I'm a child. So today I'm glowing orangey purple against my wall, and I love it. But I want to be brighter and brighter and brighter because I probably have one of the brightest guests that I've ever met in my life. And his brain is bright, but it doesn't even compete to the level of brightness that comes out of his body. So I have the man, the myth, the legend, the daily Dane-ish, the king of positivity, the guy who turns every single person he meets into like a happy-go-lucky Jojo rabbit, bounce across the world, achieve everything because he has the Midas touch with positivity. He gives you the daily Dane-ish. His name is Dane, and raspberry Dane-ish is actually one of my favorite desserts as a kid that I just realized, Dane. And he is here to literally help you become, live, thrive, accept, and skyrocket your life by being the best version of yourself with a giant heart, a happy soul, and really good habits and a community around you. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Dane.
Thank you so much, George. I'm excited to be here today. And together we can turn positivity into possibility, my friend.
I almost said it, and I was like, it's his to say. It's his to say. But he is also the king of turning positivity into possibility. And I was a witness to that statement being born when we were in Utah together. And so it makes me happy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm excited to be here. I'm really much excited to wake up every day and challenge people to be amazing. It's the truth.
You do. And I'm going to say this. So I'm going to say this in front of you and to everybody. Dane's positivity is annoying sometimes because it's so clean and so clear and so good that he annoys me sometimes with how happy he is. And I learn from him every day. But I will tell every one of you, I know Dane in real life. I know him in internet life. He's in our mastermind. He's incredible. He's about as real as they come, and this is how he is all the time. And he's just a walking ray of happiness. And so, Dane, I appreciate, and for everybody listening or watching this, I will say it publicly, I appreciate the bright fucking ray of sunshine that you are because it's incredible how far you reach.
Well, I appreciate it. I know there's a lot of negativity and a lot of BS in the world, and it's not something I wanted to prescribe to or subscribe to from the time I was a kid. And it was about being around there, encouraging people, even getting that. Look, I was a sports kid, but I still tried to take that one kid that got picked last and one day to pick him first to make him feel better about, or she, who he was. And I grew up in a time when the girls didn't really play sports with the boys. But either way, it didn't matter. If you could help me win a game, I was going to win. But at the same time, I wanted everybody to participate.
Yeah, I was always that kid that got picked last too, so I appreciate that. What sports did you play as a kid? Like what kind of sports?
So I grew up on the East Coast, so from hockey, football, basketball, whatever season it was. Then I moved to Texas in 8th grade, and then it was football and baseball. But I've coached.
Where on the East Coast?
I was in Philadelphia, out in suburb of Philadelphia, South Jersey, really, when your parents don't want to raise you in the city.
Yep.
You know, and then I was a pissed off Northeastern kid living in South Texas for a long time. That kid sometimes is still deep inside there, but coming to Texas, really, the first thing I still remember telling my folks was everybody was nice. I know the world is always changing. More people are moving here, but still the culture, it just is friendlier than the Northeast, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm from the Northeast as well. I'm a Massachusetts kid, and we have an edge. We have a chip.
Right.
I've noticed a chip. I've lived all over the country, and now I'm spending the rest of my life living in flyover states, and I'm so happy because I ended up where I wanted to end up. But I would agree with you that there's definitely a Northeastern chip.
For sure.
Up in that corner.
There is absolutely no doubt. And then I was in 8th grade, like I said, when I moved to Texas. My dad was a military physician and got stationed in San Antonio. And he said he was never shoveling another sidewalk as long as he lived. My dad has since passed away, but he never shoveled another sidewalk.
Here's what's funny is I did the same thing, except I moved away from the snow, and then I spent my life trying to get back to it because I miss shoveling. It's very therapeutic and meditative for me. So I get to ask, and we'll get into the whole thing,
Sure.
But what is it about fitness that lights you up so fucking much?
So I believe it can ultimately be the cornerstone for change or improvement in your life. Most of us don't know we feel like shit till we don't feel like shit anymore. And it's also something instantaneously you can quantify. Whether it doesn't matter if it's a burpee, it doesn't matter if it's walking out your front door. Did you move more today than yesterday? There's only 2 answers. It's yes or it's no. And we know, and whether it's your sacred mind, body, being, or what I call fundamentals, are very similar. And it's moving your body. I've also known, as I've aged and lost my dad at 68 years old, so way too young, when we were able to take my children to their great-great-granddad's 100th birthday. This past year, we buried my granddad, who was 97. He was a World War II pilot, military colonel, et cetera, et cetera. So I used to kiss my dad's chubby little face and tell him you could be a pain in my ass for a long time if you could take care of himself. But food was his drug of choice. And so I didn't know that was going to kind of light my fire on the second half of my life, but I know that it's movement. Yes, if you can do burpees, let's do burpees. You want to do a triathlon, a marathon, an ultra, we can do it. But at the same time, I want to empower the moms, the dads, the brothers and sisters of the world to have another day, right? There's so many country songs about 5 more minutes or live like you're dying. And when you're healthy, and we've had lost George recently in our lives, right? It's really, you hedge your bets. And it's about quality of life. And when you're physically fit, I believe you can have a better quality of life.
Yeah, I can totally see that. You know, and you said something too, like food was his drug of choice. Food was actually my family's 7th drug of choice, you know, behind Coke and heroin and everything else along those lines. But near the end of my family's life, my family being my father, was a direct accelerant to his life ending sooner and a lack of movement and fitness. And I look across the board and even my own life of somebody who struggled with bulimia and eating disorders and body image that no matter how many times I've changed, what I did, what therapy, what diets, what competitions, what I was doing, the simple solution that always leads to happiness, clarity, health, and longevity is just movement.
Just movement.
It's just movement. And you know, now I'm still young. I'll say on paper I'm young. My body's probably twice my age. I feel like I'm 80, but I think I just turned 39. I don't know. I'll Google it. But I think I turned 40 next year. I just turned 39. But you know, it's really funny. You said this earlier, and I think this is huge. You can't hide from the truth of fitness.
You can't.
You cannot. And you either move or you don't move. And I think, you know, for you and me, we're both entrepreneurs.
Right.
And I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see in entrepreneurship, and I'm calling out entrepreneurship because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm sure this happens everywhere. But in entrepreneurship, where we're in charge of our schedules, where we're in charge of our containers, what I typically see the first thing sacrificed is movement.
Oh, in everything, I think. It's always the first thing, right? The kids come first, the dental appointment comes first, the job, the overtime, etc. And the first thing we give up is our physical health and taking action. And whether it's challenging somebody to move 20 or 30 minutes or start with 1 minute. So I've also was the director of bariatric exercise. So I was working with super morbidly obese humans, so 100 to 200 pounds overweight. And literally, they don't teach you this stuff in school. We structured programs to walk around the damn couch, but we just give it up. And there's a Christian song called Slow Fade, and it's so true. It's micro procrastination, micro steps that ultimately a day, a week, a year, a month, a decade, for those of us who are a little older than you, George, it goes by so fast. And sometimes we feel like we can't turn the tide. And when it comes to my dad, I knew he was unhealthy. And I lived about 40 minutes north of him. And I was like, Dad, I'll come to the gym with you and work out. Get in this. We're going to do aqua therapy, right? Just aqua walk. You'll lift about 10% of your body weight in the pool, but it's resistance training because of the density of the water. And being the dad, he's like, oh, that's too much effort. That's too much energy, blah, blah, blah. And I wish if I could, one regret, I would go back and say, no, you know what? I'm going to freaking show up. You're going to freaking show up, so that maybe we could hedge his bets and we could have had him a little bit longer. But we tend to give that up. And I see it every single day.
Yeah. And it's funny as I'm reading something from my friend Nir Ayal, who's been on the show. He just posted a new article and a big write-up on hindsight bias. And you're just like, have it like, oh, if I knew. But I think what's so impeccable and powerful here is that we do know. Like, we know now every day, do we move? Did we not move? Did we drink water? Did we not drink water? Did we sleep? Did we not sleep? And I think, as somebody who was in the fitness industry, who was in the health industry, is we watch the marketing take over. We watch the complication of it take over. We watch the commoditization of it take over, right? We have multi-billion-dollar companies that get you to ride a bike in your home with somebody yelling you on a TV.
Right.
And those things have existed for years, except now we were able to commoditize them. But I think at the end of the day, what I love about you and what I love about what you do and how you do it is it's really simple. Did you move or did you not move? And then what I love that you do is you get deeper to why didn't you move?
Right.
Like, why didn't you move? So you help a lot of people. You help a lot of men. You help a lot of women. Everybody thinks it's all women. There's just men who are not commenting on your social, but they are there learning as well. And you help a ton of them. What are some of the common reasons that you see people, quote unquote, struggle to start or struggle to move, or you said it earlier, struggle to prioritize and sacrifice the one thing that gives life in the moment of living life?
Well, time is always the number one concern. I don't have the time, but you and I both know we'll make time for what's important to us.
Yep.
Right? Secondly, I think there's fear. I used to do a whole program called Fitness Redesigned, because you talked about the commodity of fitness. And we know that if we keep people unhealthy, unhappy, they're going to keep pouring in millions and billions of dollars to try to do something and ultimately feel like failures.
Yep.
So they're afraid if I have a group fitness class or even a group connection community, they're afraid they don't compare to the person next to them. And we don't know, and we've talked about this before too, where they are on their journey. So that it's time, it's fear of failure, it's fear that they can't keep up, it's fear that they're going to be uncomfortable. And physical fitness is uncomfortable. Whether if you've been if it's walking, which we know that if we could get the world to walk 20 to 30 minutes a day, we could cure obesity. It's so simple, yet it's so hard. So again, I think it's time. I think it's fear. I think it's comparison. And then understanding that self-care really isn't selfish, right? You've been taught maybe to not take care of you first and give, especially if you're a mom or dad, right? We got to take care of those littles first. They're dependent on us for a long time for everything. But we know if we can turn that around and you make self-care number one, and you feel better, you live healthier, you're happier, there's a bigger smile, you're more positive, then you can pour all those traits into the people that you love. But it truly is a mindset. Every fitness, especially at the beginning of the year, right? It's drink this shake, it's drink this, it's do squats, it's do push-ups. But really, it's about what's the 6 inches between your ears. Like, I couldn't convince my dad, right? Look, he was a Vietnam vet. He was super fit, right? You look and he was lean and mean. And then life took over. And 5 years, 1 year, 5 years for 10 years is 50 pounds. And then it was 100 pounds. But we lose sight of that. And we think we have to, no pun intended, eat that elephant in one bite. or in one big giant bite, and it's little itty bitty bites. I think it was Jim Rohn or maybe it's Zig Ziglar talks about that all the hurricanes and tornadoes get all the news, but the termites do the most damage.
That's like, I actually have never heard that one before.
I'm a personal development junkie, so sometimes I forget who I heard it from or what, but it really is. And it's those.
Can you say that again? All the hurricanes get the news.
All the hurricanes and tornadoes get all the news, but the termites do the most damage.
Yeah.
And just think about it.
Interesting.
But it's so true. And it's here. The unfortunate thing in health and wellness and mindset is you don't go walk. You don't go to the gym. You don't get a personal training session and go look in the mirror and go, shit, I look fucking good.
Yep.
It's repetitive. It's that Darren Hardy compound effect. It's how you build wealth. It's all this little itty bitty things. And success is boring. It gets trite. That's why I think the research says New Year's resolutions end by January 17th. There's no definition. There's no system. There's no commitment. There's no accountability. And oftentimes, to be honest with you, George, people want accountability till they have it.
Yep. Myself included. This is why I do this for a living. I coach because coaching holds me accountable, and then I pay coaches to coach me to hold me accountable even more. I got it. I get it. You know what's interesting to me about this, and everything that you said deserves kind of its own unpacking, which we'll get into. But when I think about, movement, when I think about fitness against the clock, against time, what I think is so incredibly powerful, it took me a long time to realize, it's that every day that I choose not to move or I choose not to prioritize self-care, I'm draining the bank account. But the inverse of that is also understanding, or not the inverse, the complement to that is understanding that when I drain the bank account, it doesn't replenish anymore. I'm not having the ability to put it back in. There's a compounding negative spiral that continues to happen. There's a compounding negative effect that continues to happen, to where if I don't move today, tomorrow, the next day, and then I go work out, that workout doesn't recover or make up for what I missed or what I had done. It just simply starts me at a lower level.
Oh, George, you were spot on, right? So it's about not being able to recover, but at the same time, you can't let that lack of potential recovery stop you from starting. What happens is, oftentimes that we miss one day becomes a week becomes a month becomes a year. And again, if you're like me, you got a few gray hairs and some crow's feet, a decade will go by so fast. So fast. So I think that, yes, you can never recover. You can't double up your workout on Tuesday because you missed Monday or whatever. But what you've got to do is get back in the game. And I think that's where the right coach, that's where the right community, that's where the right people around you. Surround yourself with people that are moving more every day, that make health a priority, that, are dreamers, believers, but at the end of the day, they've got to be doers. We can dream on it. You can sit there on December 31st with your champagne, woo, it's a new year, and wish upon being healthier, happier, more prosperous. But if you don't freaking take action, you'll be at the same spot next year with the same unfounded wish. So again, you've got it. You have to make it a party. I don't know if there was a magic wand you could wave, we would all wave it, right?
I don't know if we would. I don't know if we would. Because there is, and I think what's crazy about it is its simplicity. Like the one thing that I keep hearing, and it took me, and just for a frame of reference for everybody, I was a very high level competitive athlete, like tip top. I tied a world record, like in the world of fitness and physical achievement. And at the end of the day, like looking back at just simply 40 years of living that, 22 years of like heavy, intense fitness, all the success boils down into one thing. And it is consistency and simplicity over an extended period of time. It was never the sprints. It was never the intensity. It was never the numbers, the mile speed. It was anything. Because here's what's funny. Now I'm rocking a Montana dad bod like it's nobody's fucking business. And those numbers that I achieved mean nothing.
Right.
Nobody, my body, my health, my internal clock does not care how fast my mile was, or that I could deadlift 600 pounds or squat 600 pounds. All my body and soul cared about is that I moved and I helped oil the machine that's going to take me through it. And it's funny now, because what I love about all of this, Dane, is we live in a world where we watch people make thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, centimillions, and billions of dollars preying upon people's insecurities around fitness, health, and wellness to basically hold them accountable to take a simple, consistent action over time. And what I love about you, and I will prop you up and say this all day, the reason that exists is because all they're doing is getting people to move and hold them accountable while convincing them that they're broken and they'll always need them. When in actuality, we all have what we need, but we need community of people that are like-minded, which is what you said earlier. People that move, people that see our possibility, people that have positivity. Like, I borrow positivity from you every day. Like, I'm like, all right, cool. I literally am like, what's Dane doing? Like, what would Dane say? I'm like, if Dane was in the gym right now and he was looking at me, I would be judging myself. Shit. George, smile and go. Do not quit. Do not go. But I think what I love about you, Dane, is that I think that whole industry feeds itself, and that you bring this light in to help people realize that, like, nobody's coming to get us off the couch. Nobody's going to go fill our quote unquote bank account again, but we are. And as long as we're being honest with ourselves that, like, this is what I want and this is why I want it. Like, for me, entrepreneurs, they're like, yep, I want to be successful. I want to run a $10 million a year business. And I was like, you physically can't run a $10 million a year business right now. It'll break you. It'll break you, right? Or my favorite is like, I want to be able to play with my kids, but I can't get a workout in today. I'm like, well, why don't you fucking work out while playing with your kids?
There you go.
Because I'll tell you right now, I have a 5-year-old and my Whoop and my Oura Ring go off way more when I'm playing with my 5-year-old than they do when I'm walking on the treadmill most of the time, or when I'm doing something else, right? And so I think what I think is so powerful, and Dane, what I love that you do, but I think is the hidden secret, is that, like, community is it for me. Like, what I think is that you bring a master of community. You bring positivity, possibility. I mean, for anybody wondering, when you ever get into a room with Dane, like, Dane takes over the room with his energy in the best way possible. But I feel like fitness can be alone. Like, you talked about it earlier, where it's like, why don't we do these things? Like, we feel ashamed. Right. We have comparison syndrome. We have all of that. Like, what are some of the ways that you help break that down? Because I'm not the only one in this boat. Like, it's 2022 and I almost fell into the trap of, oh my God, I'm back in the gym, but I've been going to the gym, but there's this paradigm of like, oh, it's a new year. Like, and like, oh no, George, consistency, just keep doing a couple things a week, pick up heavy things, put them down, pull your body, push your body, move your body, and go. And I'm now perspectiving this out in, like, I want to be here when my son is 70. Like, I still want to be here. And that means I'm be 105, something along those lines, 104, right? Like, that's a goal of mine. But that's not going to come from me saying, I'm going to go sprint or starve myself. I'm going to go do a crash diet. I'm going to go to the gym for 3 hours a day, every day for 3 weeks. So I despise the gym for the next 12 months until I go back next January. And so what are, like, some of the practical tips that anybody listening, like entrepreneurs that are like, oh, I have 18 hours on my schedule, or I have the kids, or I have all of it, like, just to commit, to get into momentum, to get into movement, because I think it's so powerful. Like, what are some of the things you recommend?
So I've got to pause real quick and share a quick story about the fact that you want to be, and then I'll go back on tips. I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. You would never let me forget anyway.
No, I would not.
But you talk about wanting to be 104 when your son, when your son is 70. When I came back to Texas after Desert Storm, my daughter was going to be 4 years old. And there's a SeaWorld in San Antonio, Texas, and my dad just wanted to take his first grandchild to SeaWorld. And if you've ever been to those big major parks, they park you way out in the middle of nowhere. Maybe there's the tram, maybe there's the shuttle, maybe not. If you've ever been to freaking Texas in the summer, it's like living in hell.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it's got that big black top. And now Kate, my daughter's name is Kayla. Now she can walk, right? She's almost 4, but my dad wanted to carry her. He hadn't been in part of her life and he wanted to love on her, and her little blonde hair, blue eyes, and her pasty white face is stuck to my dad's face, and he just sweating profusely. Okay. And I'm like, Dad, she can walk, she can walk, she can walk. Well, the pinnacle show is Shamu, right? Where do they put that? All the way on the other side of the freaking park. And I watched my dad, and I didn't even know this was going to be an epiphany at the moment. But, we sit her down in the splash zone. She gets water. She gets a snow cone. She's almost 4. She's happy as a lark. She's just smiling and laughing at all the jokes, not even understanding. My dad looked miserable, George. My dad never recovered from that day, like in the sense that he just had a crappy time because his health was crappy. So I think when you talk about steps, I want you to really examine your family and your friends and their future. Right? I believe unless you get cancer, the first 40 years of your life, it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll, baby. You can do anything you want. And your body's going to recover. But then you're my age or almost your age. So I'm between 40 and 60. And when the pandemic hit, they literally said it was my age group, that 50-ish age group, that was the most acceptable. I'm like, bitches, you don't know my friends. But that's not the norm.
No.
It's way not the norm. And when Tanya and I talk about friends that do run Ironman and do marathons and things like that, it's huge. It's great. And look, I would love to say I was a world record holder, but it's never going to happen for me. It just isn't. But what I can do is I can encourage each of you to examine your future by looking at your genetics, which you can outrun them for a long time, and then see how your grandmother, your grandfather, your tia, your tio, are they type 2 diabetic? Is their quality of life super shitty because doesn't mean they don't love you. It doesn't mean they're not nice people. It doesn't mean they're not passionate about life. But what's the quality of life? And I really saw and had that moment. My daughter's 32 or 33 now. Again, I'd have to Google that too. But the idea is that I didn't want to be that granddad that couldn't carry his grandkid or go like my granddaughter's gonna be 10 years old next year, George. And my parents always took my kids and their other grandkids on a trip at 10. She loves to hike. So maybe I'll get you to come from Montana. We'll go back to Sundance and we'll do it. And that kid will have her backpack. She won't look as silly as I did climbing across that damn tree, where I got stuck and I couldn't get out. But I think that the mindset is huge.
Yeah.
Understanding it really is simple steps. Quit looking at the ads, quit looking at the influencers, because all the influencers are 20-something. Well, you know what? I was active duty when I was 20. I met all my PT scores. I wasn't on the, am I allowed to say fat boy program? Or I wasn't on the fat boy program, but I was always at the cusp, to be honest with you, of the max weight. And even when I went and got this, I bet they don't do skin calipers at all anymore, but they did my skin caliper test. They said I had a lot of lean muscle mass, and I came back and they said I could weigh whatever. My captain says, that's bullshit. You're not going to weigh that much, but you can have like 10 pounds or whatever that levity was.
Yep.
But it's really just about being where you are at the moment, accepting that every choice you made has taken you right here.
Yeah. And before we get into tips, because I think you laid the foundation really, really well, I want to enhance the foundation because I'm kind of leading this as well because it's me expressing my journey through this as well. By the way, I was in the Fat Boy program my entire career. I was right on the cusp because just so you guys know, the U.S. military is basically a body dysmorphia, body shaming machine because they have the most unrealistic height and weight standards, and they consider your physical readiness tied to a number on the scale, not your performance. And so here's what it was. Back when I was in the Marine Corps, what they had, there was like, so I'm 68 inches and I would wear 3 pairs of socks to be 68 inches because it bought me another 11 pounds.
Right.
And so at 68 inches, my max weight I was allowed to be was 181 pounds. At 67 inches, it was like 172 or something like that. Now, for those of you that have seen me, each one of my calves weighs 60 pounds alone, right? Like no joke. My legs make up a majority of my body. And so I was normally 200 pounds. And so then the first measurement they would do is like, okay, cool. You are overweight, we'll tape you. And so this is how the military worked. The Marine Corps, they had a chart. They would take your neck circumference and your waist circumference around your belly button. And then they had a calculation that would say you're fat or you're not fat. And so I had a perfect PFT score. So I was allowed to be up to 21% body fat. And if I didn't have a perfect PFT, I was allowed to be 18% body fat. And they only determined this by numbering. And so it was hilarious because I would get weighed. I'd be 20 pounds over. They would tape me. And then they would tell me I'm 22% body fat. And then I would take my shirt off and I'd have an 8-pack with veins in it. And they're like, what? And then I'd be like, you guys have to test me. Then they'd go caliper or water test me. And I was 8% body fat, 9% body fat. But yet I was on the record every single 2 to 3 months, Brian's fat, you got to get weighted. I'm like, guys, it's the same conversation. And like, here's what's so nuts about it, Dane. I had an 8-pack, like I could pick my shirt up. And I'm like, You're telling me I don't meet your height and weight standards, and all well, every physical fitness test was perfect. Every combat fitness test was perfect. I was a swim instructor. I was a martial arts instructor. Like every day I was outperforming, but the whole military was crazy about it. It was absolutely crazy about it. But you said something, and that was a tangent of my own, that I think is so important. And you said this, you said, look at your family, look at your ma, your pa, your relationship, everything. Look at the choices that you made at whatever age. And I think the most important thing, Dane, that I never simply stopped to ask myself was what do I really want? Because I also think there's a part of this to where we live in a society that's kind of built on shaming people for either not working out or not wanting to be a certain way. But we don't ever take into account that, like, not everybody has to work out. Not everybody has to want to achieve one of those goals. And we have to start there for what it is, because now it's funny. I've struggled in the last 2 years to like get back into a consistent routine of anything in general, except movement. Right. And then I would make it wrong because I like started doing HIIT again. Then I started doing CrossFit. Then I started doing Olympic weightlifting. Then I was outside, but I like kept quitting them all because I didn't really want any of those, nor did I want the results of those. What I wanted was just to physically move my body every day. And once I really checked into that, I was like, oh, so I can just hike, or I can go play outside, or I can go snowboarding, or I could do whatever. And all of a sudden, everything got easy again, because I don't want to be on the cover of magazines or compete anymore or do any of that. But I also think, Dane, it's really easy in the world of the life that we live, entrepreneurship, business, even the fitness industry, to be like, everybody needs to work out, and you should be doing this, and you should run here, and you should do this. And I was like, you shouldn't fucking do anything you don't want to do.
Absolutely.
Except get really, really honest about where you are. Because, you know, for my father, who was 56 when he passed away, we had that come to Jesus talk where I said, hey, listen, like, this doesn't have to be this. And he's like, I want it to be this. And all I could say to that was, okay. Because that's not mine. It's not my life. It's not my dad was a Vietnam vet too. And so like that area, and it taught me some valuable lessons. And so I heard you say it, and I just think it's so important because, like, I know as an entrepreneur, and even earlier I said, like, I want to run a $10 million company. You know, I've just met many people who tell me that, but they're living on energy drinks, and they're eating like crap, and they're not eating, and they're not sleeping. And this is just a whole lot deeper than movement. And I think for me, like, one big thing and I love having you here, and I want to unpack this a little bit, is that the most important place to be is aware of where you are and where you want to go, and then making a decision based on that, not what the world tells you, not what the trainer tells you, not what the coach tells you, but really checking in about like where you want to be. Because fitness to me is just a gateway in. Movement is a gateway in to all the other habits, right? It's do this every day, move your body as you should. But I heard you say it, and I wanted to give it a little credit with a little bit of my own story, that I think the most important part is knowing where you are, and then knowing where you want to go, and aligning whatever you do to get there.
I think that at the end of the day, that's the most important part. You have to see your future. Right? Isn't it Alex Sharpton? I think you said it on one of the podcasts. Mm-hmm. He says you need to go. So I've used this so much since I heard you say that.
Oh, it's I love it.
So far out into the future and see it so brightly that you come back and you live it today. Be, do, and have, right? Yep. And that's it. And look, if you don't like HIIT workouts, if you don't like the gym, then you're not going to do it. Mm-hmm. So you really do. And you've got to have some introspection. And sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to cry, and you're going to, for at that moment, just feel like crap, but then unpack that a little at a time so that you take action. I think that we talk about momentum, right? Mm-hmm. Moving a boulder stationary is really hard, but once you get it moving down a hill, it's easy to do. So again, if you want to have a better relationship with the kids, with your spouse, with yourself, fitness can truly be the cornerstone for any improvement, because you're going to have a win really quickly. I have a woman that it's interesting. I've worked with her on and off for about 6 years. And I'd almost forgotten our whole story until she brought it up. And she's a retired school teacher. She's probably 40 pounds overweight now, and just not sure where she's going to go. And so we're building a plan for her to take this. She has a granddaughter to walk outside with the grandbaby. And it's hard because she hasn't been doing anything. But at the same time, I'm like, Shay, put the baby in the stroller. And if you can physically walk out the door 5 minutes, come back, give your granddaughter a hug, then do it again tomorrow. Do it again tomorrow. The body's an amazing, adaptable piece of equipment, and you will get better, even if you don't know what you're doing. By the way, you don't have to. I have a graduate degree in exercise science. I can talk about mitochondria. I can talk about ATP. I can talk about all that shit. But you don't have to know anything about that. What you have to do is move, let your body do the amazing things that it does, stay in homeostasis, hypertrophy, all those crazy things that the science guys like, but you'll feel better because your body's doing what it's made to do. George, are you a mammal?
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, that wasn't a good question as a lawyer because I didn't know if he knew the answer. But anyway, mammals were made to move. Even the sloth moves a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, what's funny is I paused because I was like, did he just ask me if I'm a mammal? Like, did he just really ask me that question? Yes, the answer is yes.
Well, I don't know where to teach in Massachusetts, but
or in the Marine Corps. Yeah,
right?
It's a fair assessment to ask me if I know the answer to that question. I agree with you.
But I think the reason that I combine health and fitness, physical fitness, with my background from teacher, coach, educator, the life coach, is because we really need to dig down what's important to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we do, and again, if you're comfortable with where you are, then that's fine.
Totally.
Totally fine. And I'll accept you and love you right where you are. I don't have no judgment for any man or woman of faith. I don't judge you at all. That'll happen some other way. That's it. I will accept you right where you are today. Take you. I guarantee the minute you come into my life, I will see greatness in you that you've never seen in yourself.
Yep.
It's how I made. It's what I've done. You know, let's talk about figuring out who you are and what you are. So you met my wife, Tanya, in Sundance. We went hiking, right?
We
my
did.
Wife had 3 Achilles tendon surgeries in the last 6 or 7 years.
Yep.
By the way, I would recommend, unless you're in a 10 out of 10 pain, don't ever do it. But so she's never fully recovered. She was a marathoner, super hyper fit, blah, blah, blah. We did it together. We've run from San Francisco to DC and everywhere in between. And then she couldn't do it. Now it's about living, without pain first. Mm-hmm. And what we discovered is she loves to hike because it's not super fast. You can take breaks when you need to. You can have George run back and get electrolytes when necessary.
True story.
True story. But the idea is we still get out in nature and we still get to be healthy and enjoy it together and live whatever our next adventure is. I don't even know if I ever answered the question about tips, but it really is.
You have. I'm gonna pull them out because I love it. And you're hitting the tips in, right? It starts with knowing where you are and what you want, knowing what you love, and then choosing something that creates momentum and protecting it, right? Like keeping it simple. You're hitting the tips. And I love that you're telling them in story because I had a thought, like my intuition pinged right when you said it, that like, I think one of the most important things is looking at fitness as your friend, looking at movement as your friend, not the enemy. Because I just realized for a lot of my life, it was something I dreaded. I was like, oh, I have to do this or it's going to hurt. And I was like, I would never be upset if I was taking a pill that added a year to my life every time I took the pill. I don't care how big it is. I'm like, God, I love how big this is. I love that I choke a little bit. It's another year of my life, right? And I think that, you know, a part of this is like, when I hear you say it, the tips that I heard were number one is like, know where you are and what you truly want. And in that exploration, you might feel some emotion. You'll have to confront some truth because you don't have my answer. No one else has my answer. I have my answer because it boils down to my choice. But once I know where I am, then I'm like, okay, what do I enjoy doing? Like, if I'm here and I want to get here, what does that look like? And I'm like, well, no matter what, if I do something today, it's going to move me in that direction, right? Unless the thing I'm doing is eating a bag of Flaming Hot Cheetos and drinking soda and doing nothing else, right? I'm going to take a positive action. And then it's finding things that I enjoy, keeping it simple, not overcomplicating the process, and then protecting the consistency over the intensity.
Always. It's just like form over speed when it comes to fitness, right?
Totally.
So one of the things, everybody that I work with one-on-one, even in the community, I ask them and challenge them to tell me 10 things they love to do. By the way, you have no idea how hard that is for some people.
Okay, cool. So actually, let's do it right now because I want everybody listening. Like this is gold. This is gold. I know what you're doing, and I'm not even going to pick on you. I'm going to let you do it to me.
Okay.
So I want you to take me through it, and everybody listening to this, unless you're driving, if you're driving, do not stop driving. Do not partake in this. Wait till you're done. Do it later. But I want you to take me through this, Dane, because I think it's so powerful.
Okay. So I want you to imagine you and I are having a conversation and you want to regain your health. You want to have a better relationship with your little boy, your wife, and all the people you're blessed to lead.
Yep.
And I'm like, George, okay, I think that's amazing. It's wonderful. Now I want to challenge you, George, as we do this, can you list 10 things out that you enjoy doing? It's not your wife. It's not your son. It's not your grandma. Just you. List 10 things that you enjoy doing.
Do them with or without them, or just activity?
So it's
alone?
up to you. You can meld them together because we talked about earlier. If you and Branson are dancing in the living room, that's physical fitness. That's fun, right?
Totally.
Taking his Tonka trucks out and excavating. That's fun. So
totally.
It doesn't have to be singular. You can do it. You can combine.
Got it. I took, just so everybody knows, I took out a pen. Like I'm writing these down because like I want to do this. So the number one thing I enjoy doing is hiking alone.
By the way, you take great pictures when you do that.
Thank you. And the reason I like hiking is because I like being able to control the intent. I only like steep hiking. I hate flat walking. You're
not coming to
hiking.
my world and hiking, just so you know.
So I really, hiking's a new thing for me because nature scares me a little bit because of the presence. And so now, obviously I live in the world that I hike in every day. So hiking, huge. Number two is I really enjoy going to a gym outside of my own residence, regardless of what I do. So I've had home gyms that you can't even imagine, and the equipment never got touched because I needed to the ritual of like driving somewhere is a good ingrained pattern in me. And so even when I go on like walks, I will drive away from my house to go walk somewhere just to have that like prep period. So I love like going to the physical gym. This is going to sound nuts. I love walking on treadmills at a severe incline.
Oh, that's funny. Now, do you hold on?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I do not hold on. The only time I hold on, like yesterday, I wanted to hike the Eiffel Tower. So there's an Eiffel Tower setting in one of my treadmills. And I use the benchmark on how quickly I can hike the Eiffel Tower. And I know the incline and the speed. So I had the incline on 16 and the speed on 3, which would get me to the top of the Eiffel Tower in 29 minutes nonstop.
That's legit.
And so what I do is I play this game in my brain. I have to play these fitness games with myself. When I used to run all the time, or I would do triathlons, I'd be like, it wouldn't be in the next mile. I'd be like 20 more rotations and then I'll ease up. Or 70 when I hike, I'll go steps and I'm like 50 steps, sip of water, 60 steps, sip of water. So when I do this, what I've been doing on this one treadmill is getting, when I started no hands holding on, I did the Eiffel Tower in like 42 minutes, and now my best time is like 29. And so what I'll do is I'll be like, okay, 18 minutes, no hands, 1 minute of hands, and just to get my heart rate back down into the zone I want, and then back up. And so number 1, hiking alone. Number 2, the gym. And I'm going to pull specifics out. Number 3, incline treadmills. Number 4, manual labor. But when it comes to like organizing, like storage unit, garage, cleaning out like clothes. Like I love manual labor when it involves getting rid of stuff. Nice. So manual labor. Another one I love breath work in the sauna. Snowboarding.
Do you still do board meetings?
I do. I have one tomorrow. No, one on Thursday.
I love that, by the way.
Snowboarding, and then shooting, like gun shooting. But I do it to the point where like my heart rate goes up. So here's what's really funny. Podcasting, like this right now. Podcasting. And here's why I say that. Yesterday, I burned over 600 calories doing 3 podcasts.
Nice. Are you on a walking treadmill or just standing up the whole time?
No, just standing up the whole time. But I get so into it that I will set my Whoop and my Oura Ring up, and I'll track it as a workout. And like 20-minute podcast yesterday, my average heart rate was like 120.
Wow.
And so because I'm so animated and I like move around all the time, podcasting is definitely one. I do like lifting weights, like traditional like hypertrophy type stuff. So like lifting weights. And then I now am falling in love with like low intensity EMOMs, like, but 40 minutes of like, I did one the other day for 40 minutes on the minute. It was 3
pull-ups. Need to explain EMOMs to people. That don't know.
So for everybody listening, EMOM is every minute on the minute. And so I did 40 minutes. And then what I did is I did 3 pull-ups. I did 6 push-ups and then 9 kettlebell swings. And I did it every minute on the minute for 40 minutes. And I love that because in the beginning, it's like 15, 20 seconds of work and then 40 seconds of rest. And then near the end, it was like 35, 40 seconds of work and 20 seconds of rest. But I like the gap in between. I no longer like high intensity, high output all the time. Like I love the modulation. So those are 10 that I got.
All right. So first of all, congratulations, because I'm telling you, I'm like, it's like a tug of war rope so many times. And oftentimes too, it's very superficial when I first hear about what they like. Because the individuals just haven't thought about it before. We're going to eat, breathe, and crap because we have to.
Yep.
But to actually, life is going to happen for you or to you. Right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, let's go back to your 10 things. Now, George, are there any one of those things that you love to do that would be worse off because you moved your body more today than yesterday?
Any of those that I love to do that would be worse off? No.
Okay. So then my next question is, what's preventing you from beginning some sort of exercise, fitness, lifestyle routine? And sometimes it's the word exercise, fitness,
That's what it is. That's what it is. It's, yeah. And I'm so glad that you do this. Like I love working out, but I fall into the same trap where it's like, it's this thing that I do instead of who I am.
Right. Doesn't he say that in Atomic Habits, when something to that effect, where it's what you are doing is what you're becoming, and that's how it's self-identification.
Yeah, James Clear in Atomic Habit talks about this, and it's an amazing read. But yet it's funny, even when you say it to me as somebody who coaches this and does this, it's funny because like when it goes in my calendar, it becomes a thing that I do. It's a checkbox, but all the best way to think about it is it's who I am. Right? Because if it's a thing I do, I have to end this podcast, make a plan, and go to the gym. If it's who I am, I'm going to end this podcast, do 5 pull-ups, take a pee, pick up my kettlebell, and swing it a few times because it's just a part of who I am.
Absolutely. So number one, you already said yes, that your life would be better, or these 10 things you love to do. Then it's like, okay, George, let's pick one that you can improve by doing it. Does that make sense? We just kind of narrow it down. You tell me. I typically work with one-on-one clients. We'd meet about every 10 days. What I found when I used to do it every week was there was almost not enough needle mover, this for you, needle movers to have a healthy conversation. But every 10 days, and now I teach 10-day goal setting, which isn't something I learned in school. It was something I heard and then took and ran with it. Now we've had some momentum. Now you've moved your body for 10 days. Now, maybe you did 8 out of 10 days and you don't feel as good. I'm like, George, when you made it 80% in school, did you get to go to the next grade?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you make 100% on every test you ever took in school? I sure as hell didn't.
I don't think I ever got 100% on a test I took in school.
Right. And here's another story. So I've reconnected with a guy who was in tech school, by the way. So when you're active duty, you've got to go through basic training. Yep. Then you've got to learn a job, right? Not just look good in your uniform. And so Mike, he retired after 26 years. He remembers way more about me than I remember about us. But I've never told him that. So if he listens to this, sorry, Mike, I love you. But long story short, he told me he got recycled in basic training.
Oh, okay.
He had to go all the way back to day one when you're a rainbow, meaning you're still in civilian clothes. Yeah. And then you know what? He was just a pissed off 18-year-old kid who needed to be kind of harnessed to be in the military. He got recycled during tech school. But they didn't kick him out. I know.
So he got recycled in boot camp and then at tech school?
And then he retired 26 years later.
Wow.
So he stayed the course. He knew what he wanted to do. And really that whole analogy story is about the fact that he didn't quit. That because you fail one day, whatever you consider failure, doesn't mean you're a failure. You cannot identify yourself as a failure. That's why we use positive affirmations. That's another reason I say wake up and be amazing. Look, locally, I get made fun of that all the time. Oh, that's a wake up and be amazing guy. And I'm like, yep. And I'm going to continue to say it till I can't say it anymore. And now, bitch, you own my shirt that says wake up and be amazing.
Oh, well, you know what I think? Go ahead. I was going to say, like, to validate it and summarize what you're saying, I think I tend to have a theme of a year. Every year I have a theme. Every year I have a theme. This year, my theme is integrity. And that means a whole lot of different things. But 3 years ago, my theme of the year was my measuring stick was broken.
Oh, wow.
My measuring stick was broken. And so it's like everything that I was creating as a narrative to measure myself against was an illusion that had no merit in the value or quality of my life or what I wanted to achieve or accomplish. And so it's like, okay, 3 years ago, I'm a dad, right? I'm a husband. I'm an entrepreneur, the height of my entrepreneurial career. Well, not really. It goes bigger, but it was a good point in my entrepreneurial career. Branson saw 2, right? And I'm sitting here and I remember Lindsay would get mad at me. I'd go to the gym, Dane, and I'm a dude who like barely works out now. And yet I'm like squatting over 500 pounds still and still moving numbers and then I come home and she's like, how's your workout? I'm like, fucking miserable. She's like, why? I'm like, I'm so bummed because I only got the 100-pound dumbbells on the incline press 9 times. And I used to do 130s. And she's like, you're fucking psycho. And I was like, I think you're right. Like, I think you're right. But then it would be everywhere. I would be looking at myself for who I was 20 years ago or 10 years ago, not who I was wanting to be or choosing to be today. And my measuring stick was constantly broken. And like, even now, it comes up and one of the things, Dane, my theme for 2022 is integrity, which means even when I'm on podcast now, I'm going to say what I feel because I feel like I'm not going to be complete if I don't. When this comes up now, when I'm doing fitness, yesterday I went to the gym and I was like, I'm doing the Eiffel Tower. I did a test yesterday, right? I got on, I pumped it up, and I haven't walked without hands anything above 12. And I was like, I went straight to 16 yesterday. And then I was like, okay, cool. And I started trimming it down. And then I finished the fucking thing early. And then I was like, wait, I said I was going to do the Eiffel Tower. And then I was mad that I didn't do cardio for an hour. I only did it for 31 minutes. And I had it in my brain of like, you didn't do enough. You could have done more. And then I was like, stop. And I went back and I did a cold shower and breath work. And I was like, I did exactly what I needed to do. And it's perfect. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to celebrate it. I'm going to eat clean. I'm going to come back. But it still comes up for me now to where the measuring stick has always been a little off and broken. And when I hear you say that, it's like, it doesn't matter if you run a mile in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or you've never run one. Is all that matters is that you get up and you pursue it. And then tomorrow you realize that it's a brand new starting line and you pursue it again. And then you pursue it again. And then you pursue it again. And what's so fucking funny about all of this is that like it almost feels like we're watching cliches. We can talk about this in the personal development world, in the entrepreneurship world, in the fitness world, but like all we have is our last at bat and in that moment. And it's not about how hard you swing. It's just that every time you have the opportunity, you swing. And then if you don't, and then here's what's funny. If you don't, and then you realize, oh shit, I didn't swing when I could have, then I'm like, well, cool, swing next time. And then if you don't, keep going and keep going. And so, you know, for me, for everybody listening, I say this because, you know, I think if you haven't listened to this episode so far and realize that everything we're talking about in just movement, because I feel like we're really isolating movement as we should, also applies to writing your first email, sending that message out, doing a promo for your business, having the hard conversation, designing that business plan, creating that new offer, hiring that new team member. Like it doesn't matter. And like at the very beginning, you said this, you said fitness is the cornerstone of change in your life. And what I love about it is that fitness is something that you can never, ever lose from practicing every single day. And then if you prioritize the practice of it, it's going to naturally trickle into the rest of your life. Because Dane, this is my other favorite part. When is the last time, I love this question, I ask people all the time, when was the last time you felt like shit, you went to work out, and then you still felt like shit when you were done?
Yeah, it doesn't exist, right?
It cannot.
It doesn't. Well, I'm trying to be creative. I'm like, just get off your ass, Walk out your front door, put on your sneak. I don't care if it's 99 degrees with 90% humidity. Go. I get that sweat in. I don't put on my AirPods, and I like all of a sudden I got the great idea, or I can come back. The other day I would try to integrate my Stripe account. I couldn't freaking get it to work. It was pissing me off because that's not my forte. But all of a sudden I went out on a quick mile. I know where the stop sign is. I came back. It's like, oh, take a deep breath. Here's the ass key, whatever, boom, boom, and it worked.
You know, what's funny is one of some of the best healing that I ever did in my life. So a lot of you know, listen, I did a lot of work through PTSD and trauma, and I had a very amazing brain doctor talk to me. And he said, everybody discredits physical movement, but physical movement is the reset button for your brain.
Absolutely.
And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, watch. And like, he's like, we're not designed to sit at a desk for 8 hours. We're not designed to sit still on a comfortable couch in this like post-industrial revolution thing to be done. He's like, you have to realize that like when you're ruminating and your brain is stuck, you're standing still getting more stuck. He's like, the moment you're stuck mentally and you go for a walk, you get unstuck because your physical body is connected to the, and I was like, no fucking way. What? No. And that's like when I started my walking habit, and then my stillness habit, and then my like in between every podcast, go outside for 2 minutes habit, or, you know, move my body habit. And like, we just did it on the mastermind call before this. I felt energy stuck, and I was like, all right, everybody shake your hands, shake your elbows, shake your boat. And everybody felt better. And it moved what's out there. And so it's really interesting because, I'm going to get into the science of it really quickly. Mammals, because we talked about mammals, right? We are the only mammal that does not have a natural release for trauma or our lymphatic system, right? Like what's really, really funny to me is that as a human being, right? Like we buy a car and they're like, hey, put gas in the car or put diesel in the car. And we all know that if you put diesel in a gas tank, you're fucked. And if you put gas in a diesel tank, you're fucked. And if you haven't learned that lesson, I hope you never do, right? Or that if your car runs out of oil, you don't put oil in, it will not run, it will seize. If you get a flat tire and you don't change it, you will bust the rim and not drive the car. What's really, really interesting to me is that as a human being, our gas tank is actually sweating in movement.
Right.
The gas that we have, because our body has no natural way of releasing or draining our lymphatic system or releasing trauma or stored physical trauma in the body. But yet we make it like this thing that like we have to do. And I was like, it's the only thing to do that guarantees longevity and survival and like a true rocket fueled body in life.
But where's the marketing for that? It doesn't sell.
Well, yeah, of course, because you never have to buy something else again.
Right, exactly. So on the inside of my right arm, there's a caduceus, the medical caduceus, and an Olympic discus thrower, and it's exercise is medicine. It is the best medicine we've got. But again, if it's not high intensity, the thought, if it's not all out, get out, if you're not in Texas, you know, football is king. If you're still not at that level when you're the high school quarterback and you won the state championship, or you were the head of the cheerleading squad, people think they shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we even need to do it more.
Totally.
We need to do it more.
Yeah. And I think too is like, no one's coming to do it. Like what I love about you, even like when you're with Dane in person, it's incredible. But like, I think about this, my buddy, I don't know if you know who Daryl Edwards is. He's an old friend in the paleo world. He taught primal movement. So this is 2010, 2011. Yep. He'd go into like Harvard and have all these professors and then make them stand up and play. He'd make them stand on top of the chairs. He'd make them jump off benches. Like we make fun of like parkour, but he would have them do that stuff because play was just this expression of movement and energy and making it fun. And like, I meet you, Dane, and I'm like, that's what it is. And like, I think for me, I fucking take life too seriously.
Yeah.
And having a 5-year-old, like him and I this morning, we had a dance party in the car on the way to school because I said something and I needed to talk to him. So I took his iPad, I accidentally hit the button. It turned it off. He got upset because he was in the middle of something and I apologized. And then I was like, what do you want to do? He was like, I want to sing. And I was like, what? Okay. And he started, no joke. We're driving to school this morning. Branson in the car. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile lost its wheel and the Joker got away. And I was like, that's what you want to sing? He's like, sing it with me, Dad. I'm like, okay. And so literally we're driving and I'm singing this 4 or 5 times and he starts dancing and we dance. And then both of us started laughing and feeling better. And I was just reminded about like, that's movement, that's expression, that's play, that's fun, that's all of it. And so, you know, I don't know. I love your energy, Dane. I love talking about this. And we'll keep going.
One of the things I wanted to, first of all, I love that. And you should just cherish every moment of it because he's going to grow up.
Bro.
You're not going to be as cool as you are right now.
I know.
We should live life in awe. We should take joy in the ordinary. And you would, those are some of the things like my daily Dane-ish, right? You should never, I always say the number one thing I should teach is to never waste a heartbeat, but then maybe nobody would listen. But it is so true. And when we take life and we enjoy it in awe, from playing with your son to a quiet time with your wife, to breath work, to silence, to leading people, then life can be just better.
Or and even us, like hiking in Sundance. Like,
it was fantastic.
But what I loved in that, like, here's what's crazy. I live in like a hiking capital of the world, and I watch people hiking and they're walking on Instagram with each other. And I was like, you're in the middle of Glacier National Park. And I was like, what I loved, and we didn't talk about this. We were in Utah. We went 2 days in a row because we went to scout it. But we went hiking, and none of us had our phones. And there was no music playing. And it was like we were noticing trees and conversations and water and dehydration. Yeah. And then I ran fast.
And then all of a sudden, George is on top of the waterfall. Not like God,
I did do
hovering over it, like standing on it. I'm like, where the hell is George? Oh, shit, I want to do that. So I ended up climbing up there, too. It was great.
It was a dope view, but I think, you know, when I hear that, like what I love about you, and I feel like I haven't even gotten into like your background, like, but the joy that you bring, the exuberance that you bring, that like every heartbeat matters, like, and this movement being the part of it, like for everybody listening, like if I could just have you take away one thing, it's every day, move your body in a way that is fun and playful and brings joy to your life and those around you.
Absolutely. I always ask people, I'm like, I want you to imagine, maybe this is just me, but there was a time in third grade when I was staring out onto the playground and I imagined having a giant stick and I was slaying the dragon. I had a magical cape and I was saving the princess, right? And I was the fastest, most powerful human. And then Mrs. Jones said, Dane, what's 2 + 2? 2 × 2. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell the question was. Does that make sense? But yeah. I want you to go back there. It's just taken out of us as we have to have responsibility. But be that kid again. Smile, laugh so hard you pee your pants. Surround yourself with amazing quality human beings that love you and also challenge you and call your bullshit.
Yeah.
It's so important, right? Who's that guy or girl that can tell you? The one that's also going to say, George, I love you. And I want you to be here. So get off your ass and do it. I don't know who wrote this quote. And Tanya and I talk about this all the time. And because George, one of my non-negotiables in life is my marriage, because I did not get married again to get married again. So my wife and Tanya was married before too. We always say, I will take care of me for you. Will you take care of you for me? If that doesn't get you off your ass for pure love to help somebody else, because when they're gone, you don't get to say, I love you again. You don't get another kiss. You don't get another hug. You don't get to hold hands with your son again. And we don't know when that moment's going to come. And movement, quality of life, community, spirit are all things that are going to channel, allow you to do it better.
So what was the quote again?
I will take care of me for you. Will you take care of you for me?
I'm looking up who it is. I'd never heard that one. Oh, that was Jim. That was Jim Rohn.
Okay. Well, again, I think so. My first, we'll go to my personal development world. So I ran a hospital. I went back, got my degree. I was in my early 30s, 3 kids, changing careers. I worked for my dad for about a decade, and we made way more money than we should have with 30 hours of college and no skill set. And I would tell my dad, I said, Dad, now that you gave me a raise, you realize I can't go anywhere. He goes, I know. Then he said, but when the time comes, I'm going to tell you got to go.
Yep.
And basically he took my kids. I have 3 sisters. He took the one who now lives in Nevada. And he said, you guys have 1 year to figure it out. And the business is not going to sustain our lifestyle anymore. So I went back to teach and coach because I've always been an educator without even knowing why I didn't have a certificate that said I could teach. And I love sports and athletics. So I decided I would go do that. Then the world got more expensive and I was traveling 100 miles in Texas. I have a truck and I couldn't really afford what I was making to go coach in this little town that I was doing it. Long story short, I started looking for another career. I landed a job as a hospital-based wellness director. I'm like, I could freaking do that, right? So the CEO was my boss. And he said, hey, you're going to come to a class every Wednesday. You have to tell your second in command that you won't be here. And I'm going to pay for you to learn about yourself. And it was 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And I read it and I argued it because it's all about, and this is you, George, it's all about relationships. That's all that book is really about.
Yep.
And it was the first job I ever had where people just didn't listen to me. Come on, I was an E1 and people still listen to me in basic training. I just didn't tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I just said, Sergeant said you have to do this. He actually told me, but I told you and you listened to me.
Yep.
But when the people weren't listening, he said, you got to build a relationship. You got to let them trust you. You've got to deliver. You've got to live in integrity. And that was, I think the Bible's really the first personal development book ever written, but nobody really talks about it that way. But it started to perpetuate a hunger to dig into who I am. And Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar were just 2 of the people that I found. And this was in the late 90s, early 2000s. I didn't know much about it. So I can quote it to death, but I actually live it to death too, by the way.
I know you do. So like, I want you in daily Dane-ish fashion, by the way, because like, I believe you are one of those amazing human beings that you truly touch and help every single person that you meet that hears you, that does it. But like, what is your mission and like, how are you best supported to support anybody listening to this? Like, what do you care about more than anything? What do you prioritize more than anything? Because I don't hear you out here just everybody listen. Dane's like, I'm going to get you a 6-pack in 3 weeks. Like, I want you to tell everybody in your words because I can't do it justice.
Here's my mission is to educate, motivate, empower you to live a healthier, happier, more prosperous life. So it's really broad, right? But then the idea is we've got to dig in at each level. What do you want? I can tell you what I think you should do. But again, like we talked about your dad, we talked about my dad. I can't make you do it. It's got to be want. Totally. But literally be healthier because it will allow you to be happier. And whatever your prosperity is, that's not just money. I mean, I do want to make more money. I want to travel more. I want to go see the world more. I want to go to more George events. I want to do lots of things, right? Maybe we'll go climb Kilimanjaro sometime. I don't know.
Dude, I'm in. Let's go.
There you go.
But I want to do it in a day, not in 6.
Of course you do. He's going to drag my ass behind me. But literally, I want you to literally, and George kind of coined this. So George, we'll talk about, I used to call myself an excuse eradicator, and George hated it. Because it makes me sound like the alpha asshole, and it's not who I am.
Yep.
It isn't that I haven't raised my voice. It isn't I haven't encouraged somebody way more while they're as a football coach laying on the ground like, Jimmy, you got to get up. Or you got to be in the weight room and you got to quit dicking around in the weight room because it's not a healthy place or safe place if you're screwing around. I never took that lightly, by the way.
Yep.
But the idea behind all of it is that when you're healthier, you're happier. Prosperity can be love, joy, happiness, togetherness, community, all of those things. And I'm telling you, when I say wake up and be amazing, grab your daily Dane-ish, move your body more today than yesterday. That was literally the very first article I ever wrote and got paid for was just get up, get out, and get moving. Yeah. I think part of that comes, you mentioned on our mindset call, our mastermind today, being an osteopath. My dad was an osteopath.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I think ultimately he didn't just write meds.
No.
He looked at the whole person.
Yep.
And I didn't know I was learning from that.
Yeah.
And he also told me there was no diet for a sedentary lifestyle. Now, my dad was when he died, he was a 290-pound, malnourished man at 5'9". Because sugar will keep you alive.
Yep.
But go back to my mission. And almost every video, I'm like, wake up and be amazing. And I'll say, grab your daily Dane-ish. I'm Dane Boyle or Trainer Dane, depending on what I'm doing. And it is to empower. Look, and that came when I was in a blog like challenge years ago. And the blog actually changed my mind about inspiration. Because inspiration is fleeting. If I go to your event and I'm excited when I get back on the airplane to come back to Texas, if I don't take action, I wasn't empowered to take action. So I want to empower you to believe in yourself, to eliminate self-limiting beliefs, to take action. And one of the things that I teach now, because you taught it, is the 5 F's to your vivid vision. What actionable steps do you want to take with your family, your friends, your finances, your fitness, and your faith? It sums it all up.
Yep.
And analysis paralysis, I've been teaching a woman how to do it. She's like, I don't know where to start. Pick one.
Yeah.
Pick one thing and we'll talk about it and we'll dig in.
Yeah.
So when somebody talks to me, I believe I can, here, just as your word, transmute my passion and my belief into who they are as a human being. Perfectly made. Jensen Cheryl's book says there's only one of you. There'll ever be one of you. And it makes you pretty damn special. And I'm going to remind you of that, George, on Zoom. Mostly, actually men too. We talk about this. And I'm like, there's no way you would not tell Branson that he was perfectly made. No way. And so I'm like, okay, George, I want you to look at me. And I want you to say, Branson, there's only one of you. There'll ever be one of you. And it makes you pretty darn special because he's a kid. But I'm sure he's heard daddy swear. But anyway. Then I'm like, George, now I want you to pretend you're looking in the mirror. And now say that about you. Many people can't get through it. If they get through it, there's tears rolling down their face. And then the affirmation I try to get them to do is to do it on a regular basis. So they believe it. They're confident in it. And I believe that by moving your body more, you'll start to believe that.
Yeah.
And your body will let you know that. Again, sleep, water, hydrate, movement, right? That was redundant. But either way, the key is that you've got to believe it. No matter when, just because somebody told you, George, in third grade, you weren't smart enough, bright enough, confident enough, powerful enough, is bullshit. You're a grown man now.
Yep.
She also says in the book, if you're fucked up, it's not your fault. If you stay fucked up, it's your fault.
Yep.
I wish I'd said both of those, by the way. But I use them enough, and maybe I'm the only one that heard it, so I'm going to own it, and we'll make it daily Dane-ish.
Whatever. I pontificate all the time, but I give credit. Like, I'm like, oh, that's so good. I want something original. But one of the things, Dane, and for everybody listening, I recommend everybody has a conversation with Dane in one way, shape, or form. But, I've been in this game a long time. If you want a six pack, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to run a marathon, there's nothing wrong with that. You want to run an Ironman, there's nothing wrong with that. You want to, lift a certain amount, nothing wrong with that. You want to look a certain way, nothing wrong with that. But what they all have in common when that's just the goal is they all lead to a very lonely place where it has to happen again, because those are all paths or tools that can be prescribed to get you to a certain place. But the number one secret for me, and I think this goes back to the simplicity of humanity, is that we are tribal creatures and community is where we win. And prior to 150 years ago, our community was built by having a shared interest in our movement, in our fitness, in our food. And it's something that has been disconnected post-industrial revolution to where we are getting back to that for it to matter. Community, gardens, food, movement, sharing things, helping, feeding thy neighbor, doing all these things. And I think for me, I don't like directly solving things. Like, I'll hire a coach. Like, I'll know I need help in X area. I'll hire a coach in a different area where I know on like the levels of the logical brain will drip into, because it's more fun, and fitness is one of those things. But I think the true secret is, and what you do better than anybody, and I know a lot of your clients and everybody in your world, is that you see people at their possibility, and then you hold them there until they see it for themselves, without ever forcing them, pushing them, but asking the right questions with the right breadcrumbs and giving them as much of your positivity as possible to do it. And I did say this to Dane. I got mad at him one day. I'm like, you're not a fucking excuse eradicator. I was pissed. And I was like, stop. I was like, no, like, fuck, you have a gift. You're like an angel. Like, you got to see it for what it is. And, for everybody listening, I think one of the most powerful things that we can have is we can have a powerful network in our pocket, in our community, like the 7 habits of highly successful people. You think about all that, it's all based upon who we know and the relationships we have. And I know for me, movement is one of those things that it's the easiest thing to do, but sometimes it feels like the hardest. And all it takes is like, hey, go for a 2-minute walk, or, hey, how are you feeling today? Or like, hey, have you done this? And Dane, I love how you see people and how you pull people. And I watched you, and like, here's what's funny. And Dane didn't, know this, but like, I observe everything. That's what I get paid to do, is to see everything. Right. And, we're in Sundance and we're hiking, and I'm watching Dane. We take a big group out, and I didn't prep them, and I knew everybody was passable, but it would be a challenge for some. And I watch you naturally encouraging, checking in, paying attention, moving them, like mitigating what's going to happen, like seeing challenges arise before they arise and pre-solving them and doing it. And it's amazing because like at the end of it, not one person was like, oh, that was a hard hike, or that was a whatever. They're like, I feel amazing. I feel amazing. And I think that's the secret, is that we can choose joy, right? If you get into the work of like Joe Dispenza, we're talking about frequencies. We're talking about tuning in. We're talking about all of it. And the one secret to be able to do it is that your body is the tuning fork. Right. And if you're disconnected from that body, there's nothing to tune into. You have to be connected to the body to know what to turn in the knob and when to do it. And I think moving is the best way, because I will tell you right now, there's no way or no time that I feel more connected to myself than when I'm moving, when I feel the cramp, when I feel the pain,
Right.
when I feel my lungs, when my quad hurts, when my ankle has to pop. And I was like, oh, all these moments and memories give me what I need to be connected. And so I love that you do that, Dane. I love that to pieces. I have a couple more questions, but just before we do this, I'm going to give a glowing recommendation. And here's what I think. Knowing how much of a positive impact you have on my life as somebody that's in my life, that's also in my mastermind, and as a friend and a student and a leader and a mentor and everything imagined, I think every single human being listening to this can benefit from having a touch point with Dane. And I say this because your fucking positivity makes me uncomfortable so much. And it's all the right reasons, because it shines a light on the spot where I'm choosing to shine a light on the things that I am not rather than what I am. And it brings an awareness for me to then practice what I am and to bring that out. And I love that you live in such a way with such a big heart that you can see this. So everybody listening to this, I want you to get a daily dose of Dane-ish. We named it as Daily Dane-ish, but I'm telling you, he belongs on your alarm clock. He belongs on your ringtones. Have a text message thing, make custom gifts of Dane, like whatever. But I want everybody listening to this to send him a message on Instagram. I just want you to send him a DM, and you can say whatever you want, but I want you to send him a DM. His Instagram is Coach Dane Boyle. So Coach, C-O-A-C-H, Dane, D-A-N-E, and then Boyle, B-O-Y-L-E. Coach Dane Boyle. He's got challenges. He will help you. He will give you a video response. He will do whatever he can to turn his positivity and yours into possibility for you, and do whatever it is he is. But it only starts when you send that message. And trust me, I tell Dane, I tell him, I'm like on the road in an airport. So I'm like, bro, stop. You're too happy. I'm in a tuna can right now. I don't want to be this happy. Just like, oh, thanks for the video, Brand. I love it. Thanks for thinking about me.
My wife tells me that sometimes too, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure, man. Like it's the greatest medicine. And it's so good for me to see where I still have cynicism, when I still have, but here's what it comes down to. You're just shining lights on the part that I was ignoring that day, because then I'm like, oh, fuck, I got to go walk. And then I feel amazing. I'm like, thanks, Dane. Thank you. Like, go, go, go. I love it. I absolutely love it. And so, I was going to ask you to tell everybody, but for everybody listening, I have people on this podcast that I love, admire, and respect. That's my rule for the show. And Dane is one of the greatest human beings that I've ever met. And I really, Dane, do believe that everybody can benefit from having you in their life. And so that's why I told them to go to your Instagram.
Well, I appreciate that and couldn't thank you enough. I value you as a man, as a leader, as an entrepreneur. And at the end of the day, really, it's ultimately about friendship. And I guarantee that if I said something, well, George told me in Utah, he goes, I'm just going to tell you the way I feel. And so when I was a high school coach, our athletic director said, look, if you're going to be an asshole all of the time. So that way, at least people know what to expect.
Yeah.
Just be, what does your shirt always say?
Unapologetically authentic.
Authentic. There you go.
Yeah.
Be that every single day. Dig down deep and figure out who you are, what you are, and where you want to go. And really, one of my purposes is I want to have 1 million healthy conversations before I die.
I love that. 1 million.
I'm not sure I know how to quantify it necessarily. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Whatever. Pick a metric. Like science is picking the metric, so you pick it. But I think that's a really good goal to have. All right, I'm gonna hit you with some rapid fires.
Okay, let's go.
All right, I'm gonna start with a serious one.
Okay.
What do people never ask you, but you wish that they did?
That's funny, I guess, or sad, or whatever. I think they never really asked me what my challenges in life have been. Because I told you I got remarried. Now, if I get emotional, I'm just going to take a moment here, but I got remarried again. But I had been married to my high school sweetheart for 23 years. We have 3 amazing human beings, children that are now adults. And we were in a horrific rollover car accident that we could never heal ourselves emotionally from, which I think also leads me to how important it is for me to help other people. Because I didn't have a network. I didn't every job I ever got, everything I ever applied for, I was the captain of every, as I'm saying, I got promoted early in the military. And then here was this one thing that was completely out of my control, and I didn't know how to help somebody. But nobody ever really asked me that. And I still am uncomfortable sharing parts of it because of the emotion that comes with it.
Yeah, we'll hit that on another podcast. We'll hit that. Maybe we'll hit that in an in-person event. We'll rip into that
and maybe
story.
it was a little heavier, but I'm just telling you, nobody really asked.
I think it's huge. It makes a lot of, well, first, thank you for sharing. And thank you for opening up about that. And I apologize for not asking sooner on the show.
All good.
I think it's huge. It actually makes a lot of sense, knowing those parts of you and how those align up. So I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. What's one thing that you want to get better at?
I really want to get better at delivering my message. I know that sounds funny, but at the same time, because I look, we haven't even mentioned I'm a camp gladiator, which I absolutely love and has done really well for me. Personal trainer. Mm-hmm. I do it virtually and in person. But I want to dig a little bit deeper, and I'm blessed to have a following, and I'm not going to change that, but I want to deliver my message better. And at the same time, you know what? Let's back up. I want to get better at my own physical fitness.
There you go. I love it. That's a good answer. Yeah, I like that.
Because, so I had my own, when I left teaching and coaching and I literally was in Miami with Tanya, and I was making good money, but I hated my job. And I picked her up from this seminar that she was in. She goes, "Man, I haven't seen that big, healthy smile in a long time." I'm like, "Get in the car, babe. I got something to tell you." And she goes, "What is it?" I said, "I'm going to resign." She goes, "Can we afford it?" I'm like, "No." I was like, "I'll go 10 bar. I'll dig a ditch. I'm not afraid to work."
Yeah.
But either, I don't even know what that whole purpose was, but the idea there, I have no idea what the hell why I even shared that with you. But
I don't know either, but you want to get better at your physical fitness. I love that. Okay, cool.
Thank you. Yeah. Because since I've been an entrepreneur now full time with the LLC for going on 8 years, I've let my health slip because I've been chasing $1 to pay bills. And after I had my own personal fitness studio, I lost a shit ton of money.
Yep.
And now I don't have that overhead and brick and mortar, and my mission is different. I've grown, but I'll tell you what, it may have been an expensive lesson, but it was probably the best lesson ever on how to deliver and help people better.
And this whole episode, Dane, was really easy. You just have to pick one thing today and start.
So I have to listen to my own shit, and I get it back to me all the time. I'm like, every now and then I actually am not super duper happy. It doesn't really happen very often. I don't like it, so I use my own tools to get out of that.
Well, I think you honor it, and then you process it pretty quickly because you have the tools. Okay, what's on your nightstand?
So my new book is The Archer, which I think that somebody said that you might have, by Paulo.
Oh yeah, Paulo. Yeah. I recommended that one months ago.
Super short. So I'm literally just trying to read one chapter at a time.
I love that.
Take it all in, and look. I told you earlier, I write PD, personal development. I love it. It's who I am. I did a whole thing. I went to a small Christian university, and we did a whole series at the chapel called Called to be a Coach. It's what I was called to do, coaching, teaching, education. It's what I was called to do. So I want to take all the message he has in that book and then put it into action.
I love that I asked what's on your nightstand. You told me a book and told me a story. What else is on your nightstand? Do you have a pen? Do you have a lamp? What else on there?
That's so funny. Yeah. I've got this little tray that Tanya bought me that has my iPad, my Apple Watch, all the shit, because she was tired of all the cords being everywhere. So it's really, really nice. I still don't use it the way I'm supposed to. It just has long cords. Other than that, and about a shit ton of water bottles that I should probably throw away.
That's what I'm getting into. Okay. What is one thing that you own and probably should throw out, but probably never will?
Oh, my goodness. Well, there's a lot of them. I have a shitload of coffee mugs, and I have a shitload of pint beer glasses. We'll go back to, I told you I've been married again. So when I got divorced, I realized, first of all, it's all material possessions, and there was no emotion attached to it when it was all done. But I collected coffee mugs and pint beer glasses. Well, you know what? 10 years later, what I have a shitload of? Coffee mugs and pint beer glasses. And somebody's going to inherit them when I pass away.
I love it. What would your friends say is one of your superpowers?
Purpose, passion, mission, excitement, positivity, my message I can deliver on video with my voice, and really the belief in humanity.
What are the two biggest things that bring you the most joy?
Well, quality time is my love language. So spending time with people I love, absolutely, and hands down, and being in nature. And when I can be with the people I love in nature, it's the adventure I want to live.
Game on. And then I'm gonna end with this one. Okay. If you had to give a TED talk on nothing that you're known for or nothing that you speak about, but it could be anything that you like to do or have a passion for, what would it be?
Oh my God. But still going to come back to the fact that it would be live life with adventure.
Live life with adventure. Okay.
Does that make sense? And so how do you do that? I don't know if I can really remove myself from that. That's funny. Like, I would love to be a better fisherman. I didn't grow up. My dad went to medical school when I was in school. So he wasn't going to do it. I didn't hunt and fish. Does that make sense? He was in the military. We went down to the rifle range, and that's kind of how we spent time together. Does that make sense?
I love it. I love it, man.
But I learned how to camp, and my wife and I camp, and we have an RV, and we fish and we hike. I would like to teach people how to do it, because I think it then gives them focus and purpose. And look, I've done programs called No Child Left Indoors.
Yeah.
I've done No One Left Indoors. There's so much you can discover about who you are, what you are. Yes, you should know what a poisonous snake looks like. Yes, you should know what poison ivy looks like. But you got to get your ass outside. You got to experience it. And you said you like to hike alone. So I don't have to teach that to you. You already do it.
I love it. I love it. All right, Dane. Well, we could go forever. I could ask you a ton more, but I think we're going to wrap. Let everybody know where to find you on Instagram again, what to DM you. You tell them from your side now.
Absolutely. So I'm Coach Dane Boyle, and I want you to message me and leave me a message, video, text, voice, and tell me that you want to live a healthier, happier, more prosperous life. And this to start the conversation, because you'll help me, and I ultimately want to help you. It's never been about me. That's a whole nother conversation, but I really want to empower you to live healthier, happier, more prosperous life. And it takes a conversation. So then you can count it as one of the million healthy conversations in my lifetime.
I love it. So we're going to end there. We're going to let that go. Shoot Dane a DM on Instagram, Coach Dane Boyle. Blow him up, send him gifts, send him humor, challenge him a push-up contest, squats. I don't care. Do something. Just get in Dane's DM so he can give you the daily Dane-ish, which is the daily dose of positivity that we all get. So Dane, thank you so much for being here, my friend. It's always a pleasure. It's an honor. I love your energy. I appreciate the light that you are to the world. For those of you listening, take one thing from today and put it into practice. Pick that one thing. Make a list of the 10 things that you love doing that help you move your body, and prioritize your movement. Prioritize your car. Give yourself the best chance that you have to be the best version of you through your movement, and use it as a catalyst or a cornerstone of change everywhere in your life. And if you need help, the only way to get it is to reach out and ask. That's to me, that's to Dane, that's to anybody. But this is a community game, and you listening to this are hearing this for a reason at this time, in this moment, for some sort of purpose that I will never have any idea about. But I would recommend that you take something that landed and put it into practice if you made it to the end of Dane and I rattling our gums and bumping them nonstop. And so we love you. Remember that relationships will always beat algorithms. And now let's cue the outro.